All right, episode 80. Today we are going to talk all about taking more listings. Fourth quarter's coming up, and guess what? You probably don't have enough listings. We're going to talk about that right now.
Right now.
Welcome to the only real estate podcast worth listening to, with your hosts Nick Good, Matt Kelderman, and Brian Force. Combined, they have 26 years of experience and have sold over 1,500 homes. Join them each week as they bring you everything you need to know about real estate. And now, here are your hosts, Nick, Matt, and Brian.
All right, episode 80. Big
like,
80.
The car backfired there a little bit. It didn't stall,
No?
but
All
it
right.
backfired. So it's a little warning shot for
Banana in the tailpipe.
Exactly.
Yes. All right. The big 80 for us. Never thought we would make 80 episodes, by the way.
I remember, was it RJ Bates who has their show, Titanium or whatever? They
love
told us one time,
RJ.
like, if you guys get to 17 episodes, that's pretty good. And we're like, okay, we'll try that.
Yeah. So, look, we have passed
We have.
the 17 episodes mark, and number 100, we're coming for you. But today, look, we are talking all about listings today. Justin Nelson, I have an uninterrupted hour, and I'm ready for this. So thank you, Justin.
That was
He's using.
that was one of his VAs.
It was one
Yeah.
of his VAs.
How do we know it's
He's
really
not
you?
even really watching right
Yeah.
now.
Send me your credit card number if it's really you.
Exactly.
So before we get started talking all about listings, fourth quarter's coming up. You're probably not meeting with enough sellers, right? You're probably not signing enough listings. You're not getting enough signs in the ground. First off, if that is the case, you need to go over to touracademy.com/take10, TEN, sign up for the Tour Academy Take 10 Listings Every Single Month webinar. And look, you're going to learn all about our leads. You're going to learn about where we're getting our leads.
I'm super good at taking listings, and we're just gonna tell you.
We're going to tell you and see if we can drag it out for 45 minutes.
Where are you at with listings this month?
We are at 11.
11. Nice.
And I told you 125 taken year to date. It's really 129 with that, with those 11. We've taken several today. But I'll tell you, we had a horrible month. I think it was last month. It was. We didn't take 10 last month. I'm going to tell you right now.
I think our month last month was light for us as well.
Yeah.
Words.
Yeah, August. Look, August is a tougher month anyway when it comes to just taking more on.
Sure.
Normally, you're fighting the back to school, especially this year where it was kind of virtually, then it was in person, and then are we even going to school? What the heck's going on? You got to learn your new work schedule as a parent.
Yeah.
I mean, so it makes sense, right?
How have you guys enjoyed? Oh, wait, Asher's not school age, is he yet?
No, he's in Mother's Day out, so he's going 3 days a week. He's in person. We're not virtually doing that shit.
No.
Forgive my ignorance, not a parent. What is Mother's Day out?
It's like a
Daycare?
It's like a daycare church program, or
Yeah.
it's a place to go drop your kids off from 9 to 2.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it is.
Yeah.
They play
So,
with them and
look,
stuff.
he goes 3 days a week. Look, I do it to hopefully maybe pick up some more listings from there.
Well, it sounds awesome.
Yes.
Yeah.
He
Luke
has
being
a
back in
great
school
time.
has been amazing.
But anyway, you want to take 10 listings every single month. Go over to touracademy.com/take10, TEN. Sign up for that webinar right now, and then you'll be prompted to join Tour Academy for $1 hair, right? $1. That's it. $1, and then it's $97 a month. And then go over to the only real estate group worth being a part of. Join us there. Look, like Justin just said, here is an actual review. If you're not part of Tour Academy, if you're not in it, you're just a loser. Thanks, Justin.
Justin just
Actual
brings
member
fire.
review.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just straight fire.
So let's talk about taking more listings, right? We use this to measure where we are, right? You guys were asking me today where we at listing wise. You were talking about what the office is looking like, what the area is looking like, and we see it a lot of times in our group. Why is Nick getting so much video time?
Oh, are we doing?
I want to see Brian's new haircut.
I don't know about new haircut. You have to have hair to have a cut. We're going to try this for a little bit, guys. Actually, I'm pretty fucking comfortable with who I am as a human being. So I'm going to open this up to an open forum here, which might be against my better judgment. You guys go ahead and let me know in the comments if you like the shaved look, if I should grow it back. Totally up to you. Just tired of managing it.
I like it.
It took me 1 hour.
Managing it, but it's actually it's actually a lot that goes into this.
It took me an hour to get used to it.
No.
I sat across from him for an hour. Like there was like the first day I was like, all right, we're doing this now. Right.
Yeah.
And then about an hour later, I was like, all right, cool.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. Look, winter's coming. It's going to be a little cold for you, but whatever.
That is true. The thing about it is there's only two types of bald people. There's Adam Silver and there's Dwayne Johnson. And there's no in between. So now I have a hefty responsibility to stay in shape.
Yes.
There are no medium in shape bald guys. There's
I
only
don't think I
jacked
could
and
pull
skinny.
off the bald look, though. You at least have a good shaped head for the bald
You
look.
won't know until you try.
Yeah, I'm not going that way. No, not at all. Not unless our team takes 100 listings in 1 month.
You heard that.
Challenge out there, right?
You heard it. Good home team.
That's right. So, look, I mean, we do this and we talk about where our listings is. And there's always that saying, listings, if you want to last in this business, take more listings. Listings to last.
Yep.
Right? And for whatever reason, there's been a struggle. Inventory is low, thanks to the pandemic, everything else going on. And for whatever reason, we're over last year's numbers on listings taken.
Yeah.
You guys are definitely over last year's numbers on listings taken.
We're pretty much up over every number from last year.
Which, look, a lot of people's business is up from the overall transaction side.
Sure.
Yeah.
But their listing count probably isn't. And what is that going to do? That's going to predict where their business is going to be in 90 to 120 days.
Well, it was one of my biggest fears. You're saying you had that one slow month, and we did too, where I think we only took a few listings, but we had a ton of buyers that month. I think we still put up like 25 pendings that month, which, the whole team was pumped in. But now I'm sitting here like with this little tug in my stomach, like we only took a few listings, like was it going to come back to bite us? And fortunately it hasn't yet, but I can just tell you, from experience, listings are a leading indicator of what your business is going to look like you just said, in 3 months. And if you're not able to maintain that, if you're just trying to coast on your buyer business, your listing business, you have to build it over time, but then it will decrease over time if you don't, maintain it. Whereas your buyer business, you build it up over time and it could disappear like that.
Yeah.
Mortgage rates change, disappears, right? Something happens, buyer business. People are always less committed on the buy side. You know what I mean? When you're putting your home on the market, you've pretty much already made the decision that you're going to sell. When you start looking at homes, you haven't made the decision yet for sure that you're going to buy. So your buyer business can go away a lot faster, and that's why it's so important to maintain your listing business. So it's definitely an indicator, and it's something that we are really, really, really putting an emphasis on here in fourth quarter.
So my thought process behind it is why are the agents struggling when the market is as crazy as it is, right? You can basically, if you can fog a mirror, right, your home's going to you're more than likely going to sell. There's a high probability that
It's low
it'll sell,
inventory,
right, because of that low inventory. But we, as agents, they're struggling to get to either win that confidence to that homeowner, to get them to list because maybe they're afraid of not being able to find something.
Sure.
Right? Or are the majority of the agents out there, what are they used to working? What is their main source of business?
Oh, dude, it's exactly like mine was for the first 4 years of my career. They're 90-10 buyers.
90-10 buyers. And it's also really, really heavy on just sphere, on who they know.
Sure.
Right? So when you're working your sphere, you don't have to typically overcome as many objections.
I would think not.
Right?
I would
You don't
hope
have
not.
to you don't have to problem solve as much, at least until
Right.
you're getting into maybe the nitty-gritty of the actual contract.
Yeah.
The reality is the buyer lead, at least for me, was always an easier relationship to navigate.
Yep.
It was an easier lead to procure, especially as a newer agent, right? I was working with a lot of first-time home buyers that weren't always fully aware of the fact that I had only sold 5 houses or whatever it was at the time. So it was always easier for me to gravitate towards buyer business. And I love the buyer business. The greatest thing about it now is it's turned into seller business later, which is the awesome part about it.
Yeah.
But it was just so much easier to get. And I came into real estate like kind of in a space when our market was crazy hot, and taking listings as an uneducated agent was hard because you were going up against monsters, right? Like for instance, in Lake Highlands, like I wasn't getting any listings over there in 2014.
Yeah.
Right. So it was just such a different environment. I think there's a little bit of that going on right now too, that there is such a push towards listings that if you're not comfortable with them going into this, that might scare you a little bit from fully engaging and going after listings.
Yeah. Well, and look, in order to really grow your listing inventory and to get hired by more, the only way that you can do that is you've got to market more, right? You've got to be putting more offers out there to whom? Sellers, homeowners, right?
Yeah, and I think maybe that's where we take this conversation, and just to kind of give you guys some insight. This was kind of a kick around episode for us because we just kind of wanted to talk generally about what we're doing to take more listings going into fourth quarter. We've had this adverse sort of mindset, I think, towards, and this is where I maybe have to eat a little crow and give Nick some credit. We've had a little bit of an adverse mindset since the beginning of the pandemic towards really, really investing in more leads, more marketing, more of that type of stuff. You went all in. And maybe not just on the seller side, on the buy side for sure, but you upped your Facebook marketing, you upped a lot of different stuff. I will tell you, just, you know, for somebody that's been doing it for a couple of months now, we instituted an old direct mail campaign that I used to run years ago, and our response rates haven't been amazing. I'm still working on that, but we've only spent a little bit of money on it, and we just took a $2 million listing. I should say Matt just took a $2 million listing yesterday off of it, right?
Yep.
And that's straight up old school mail marketing.
So let's talk about that. I mean, so I asked in the only real estate group worth being a part of. So if you're not in that Facebook group, go and join it right now, right? And I said, what are you doing
right now?
What are you doing right now to get more listings, right? And Kat Harvey, you know, she commented, she's like, spending money.
Sure.
She said tweeting systems. Maybe she meant tweaking systems.
Most likely.
Yeah. I'm like,
So
getting
like,
it through
I don't know.
Twitter.
I've
Twitter's
known
a great-
I've Kat Harvey for about 15 years.
Yeah.
She ain't tweeting shit.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Typo.
I was like, is Twitter working? Maybe
Yeah.
I need to go look at that.
Right.
You know, talking to builders, spending time on sphere of influence and a little prayer, and then the money is spent on farming and web targeted ads, right? And then she said, if I can figure out how to overcome my camera phobia, I'll do more video. Comfort zones must be concurred to stay relevant.
Oh, you can overcome your camera.
Yeah.
If I could put my bald ass dome on this camera with all these studio lights, I feel like my head is just made out of fireworks. You can give, or you can get over your camera fear. I think you'll be all right.
So that's the thing is it takes in this marketplace. It definitely you've got to find it. You're going to have to spend a little bit more money or do some guerrilla style marketing of. You know, I know that an agent partner of mine, Jack, he does a monthly newsletter, a neighborhood newsletter, but he doesn't mail it out. That's his exercise for that week, and he passes them out door to door, right? There are ways you're going to have to market more. So you know, farming is a big one.
Farming's a huge one, and I think, you know, in general, have we gotten away as an industry from really investing financially in good seller lead systems? Because I don't hear about people farming all that much anymore. I still think it's great.
I do too. And I think one of the common misconceptions that we typically have is that it doesn't really make a lot of sense for the individual agent to farm an area by just carpet bombing everything, right?
Sure.
They really, really have to like be focused. And I'm probably a little bit spoiled because I have Brian and I don't realize some of the things he does in the background. But for instance, we throw around the mailer thing like it's just something easy for a typical agent to do. But the reality is it's focused mailing, right? There's some intent behind what we're doing. There's an efficiency with it too. If you're walking and door knocking or not even door knocking, just dropping newsletters in a farm neighborhood, that's different. But if you're trying to attack sellers that look ready to go, even though you don't know who they are and you don't know any of their tendencies, that's a really hard thing to do when you're just kind of just dropping postcards all over a neighborhood from a financial standpoint.
Correct.
Well,
Right.
and obviously I'm super lucky to have Matt, but that's
This is a love fest today.
It is.
Damn,
It is.
Total sausage fest in this room right now too. No, I mean, maybe that's why I think it's kind of peculiar is that from my perspective, it's been easier than ever to target motivated sellers, right? Like in the old days, farming was blanket. You didn't have access to data. You know what I mean? Not at the level that you have now. So like if you were going to farm an area, you had to just farm the entire area. Like everything was very blanketed. You didn't really have a lot of choices, a lot of data. Now it's I feel like it's a lot easier to zero in. Like our mail marketing is not farming. I wouldn't call it that. Oh, it should say
targeted farming.
It's demographic farming rather than geographic farming, right? We're targeting demographics of people who have lived in places for a certain amount of time, you know, so on and so forth, having a certain amount of equity, just people that we've identified as being likely to sell. That's easier than ever, but yet we've sort of shied away from it. But I think if you look at it pound for pound, your seller leads are always going to be a little bit warmer leads. Very few people, let's just say your end of your funnel is a home valuation thing. Yeah, some people will do that, just whatever. But mostly your seller leads are going to be a little bit higher intent than your buyer leads. Anybody on Facebook can click on something and fill out some stuff and not have any intention whatsoever. Your seller leads are usually a little bit better and they cost more. But we've sort of started to pump a lot of money, I think, as an industry into generating easy digital buyer leads. And we've kind of gone away from the old school seller lead thing. And I don't know if that's the best route.
Well, I think what that means is it leaves an opportunity for agents to jump in there, right? I mean, look, direct mail dropped even during the pandemic, right? So that left an opportunity to start building up your brand and your marketing presence.
That's when we started doing it. Yeah.
And I'll tell you right now, I have yet to see since March, I'm trying to think, unless my mother-in-law's throwing away the mail, I have yet to see any real estate. I can think of one.
To get a Nick texted me one of my own postcards one time. He was like, "Hey, stop sending me these."
I was like, I mean, I'll keep using it, right? I use it for my swipe file.
There you go, 100%.
But the thing is, start looking at where the opportunity was. I saw the opportunity. We talked about it on I'm sure you can go back to one of those March podcasts. Is everyone was at home. It made more sense to spend money online.
Yeah.
Right? Everyone's at home, and what are they doing? They're consuming digital
They're just
content.
glued to their screens all day.
Yes. Right? Now we're starting to get back to what is somewhat of a normalized, and they're not as, I read an article recently that Fort Worth is one of the leading cities for people to go back to work out of the home and back into the office place. So we can definitely see that with traffic.
Oh my God.
Traffic has definitely picked back up.
Yeah.
Right. And so, you just have to think logically where to start putting that. Where's the lead flow going to be? Right. So, we are sitting on a lot of still equity as homeowners. You can go pull that data. If not, then there's companies out there that can help you and then start marketing to them. Right. Back in the day, we were running home evaluation, Google home evaluation ads.
Sure.
And Alex, we ran a number on it, and of course, we had a okay ROI on it. I could have tweaked my systems for sure a lot better on it. But when we ran through everyone that inquired about getting a home evaluation, I want to say it was like in the 40-45% range that those people put their home up, listed it, and sold it within 12 months.
Wow, really?
Yes.
That's a super good target. Yeah, that's awesome.
So we kept it going until it was just a little bit. Alex got too busy, right? Our investment side started taking off, and so he couldn't. It was managing the pay-per-click side of things, make sure that we were still targeting the right keywords, putting the right spend where they needed to be.
Yeah,
that's where it gets a little bit difficult as a maybe individual solo agent or the Matts and myself who don't necessarily have 100% of that knowledge,
right? And
we don't feel we have the time to dive into it to learn it, then go test it, and then see if there's a return on there.
Well, and I think first off, if you want to learn how to do it, we've been trying to goad Brian into teaching a class on his Google style that he's learned. So just say, hey, Brian, will you please teach a class in the comment section?
Yeah, we're the ones suggesting it. You guys should be suggesting it out there.
And then America. He'll do it, which is good. But I think the other thing too is and this is probably a little bit more me, but I feel like I relate to a lot of real estate agents, is that there's an intimidation factor with going after listings sometimes for agents who aren't totally skilled up on them. And what I would like to encourage them on is that I've noticed, and I've been taking listings pretty consistently now for 4 years. But I have noticed the last 3 months, my listing business and opportunity has increased exponentially. And I'll be completely candid. I haven't really ramped up my actions to the rate with which I'm getting more opportunities at sellers, right?
Right.
And I am seeing an increase in people's actual interest in selling. Whatever happened, in month 1 of COVID with sellers being nervous to sell, that conversation has died off a lot when you're talking to sellers. And if you're targeting correctly or being efficient in your systems, people are super interested in listing. Brian talks about this mailer campaign, and we were talking before this, that he was like, I was kind of worried about the call rate or whatever. Dude, every one of those opportunities is a legitimate seller, right? And every time a mailing thing goes out, there's a dozen phone calls, right? Like those are all listing opportunities. The same thing with the half-assed effort Brian and I have put into our Undoubtedly Dallas YouTube page, right? We have a $400,000 buyer under contract right now, and I was showing a $900,000 buyer last weekend from that YouTube page, right? And now those are buyers, but at the end of the day, like all these opportunities are just laying around out there for people to reach out to you.
It's digging into it, right?
It is.
So that's the main thing is what you're hearing here today. You've got to pick an avenue and stick with it, right? And be consistent with that. That was from 2009 when I really started working expireds. Look, through today, 11 years later, I really can't convert a for sale by owner to save to
I'm
to
the
save my
worst.
business, right?
It's because you're too aggressive.
It's too, and I am, right? It's because I look, not going to sell on their own.
And they're not going to list with you on day one typically.
No.
Either, right?
God.
Yes,
What
the
have I
song
done?
is back.
Sorry, Brian's on the ones and twos today. Wrong button.
So with that, it's more about sticking to something consistently. Like we had on episode 79, last week, Christina
Smallhorn.
Christina. Why did I get Kristen my name?
Don't be upset about when you listen to this Christina Smallhorn. He didn't even remember the name of our group for like the first
That
year
is
we
true.
did the show.
It took us like 10 episodes.
I
was
always
like-
remember Smallhorn.
That was his thing too. It was like,
that was my thing. But Christina on episode 79, go back and listen to that. That, first off, I'm going to tell you, that was the best show ever.
I have gotten so much out of that. Like I told you, I go back and I don't watch our shows back typically just because I was here for it, right? But I've left there feeling so incomplete information wise that we could do 2 more shows with her.
Sure.
Yeah.
And probably wouldn't get everything.
I agree.
One, because I just think her approach, and if you guys want to know what we're talking about, go back and watch last week's episode 79, Christina Smallhorn, real estate agent in Louisiana now. Yes. She's in Louisiana. And Rebecca's. But just her whole approach to YouTube is different than every other YouTuber we've had on. And honestly, I think it probably fits with what we wanted YouTube to be for us a little bit better than what other people were telling us it had to
was
be.
definitely more our style as far as her approach goes.
Yeah.
Just to dive a little deeper is, okay, so I think that there is a huge opportunity to take listings now because, and not to get onto current events or anything, but I think there's an exhaustion around the pandemic a little bit, meaning that like I don't know if that's really people's bit anymore for their reason for not selling. I don't see that as a huge objection that we need to continue to overcome. I kind of just think as a society we've learned to live with whatever's going on right now. So I don't think that's it. School may be up in the air, I have no idea, but I just at this point I'm struggling to figure out why you and us and a lot of people that are sort of at the a particular echelon maybe of their business have been able to really take a lot of listings lately and seeing the listings come back. But it seems like industry wide, I'll give you an example. I don't know the exact numbers, but it seems like our office as a whole, we work out of one of the largest offices here in North Texas, they've been quite a bit down in listings taken recently. The only thing I can think of is it's a mindset thing. I think that we have a combination of the time of year, which is sort of the time of year when a lot of especially individuals start to get a little exhausted with where their business is at, and they just the air starts get a little bit colder outside. We start thinking about kicking the can down the road till next year, but hey, 2021, we're going to crush it, right? We start to get that little bit, of thinginess, and then we combine that with some of the inherent excuses that we've been using since March and April, and all of a sudden, it's not that listings aren't out there. It's just that we're not really going after them with the same ferocity that we usually do, and maybe we don't know how to overcome some of the objections that we're facing, but I gotta think it's a mindset thing.
I think there is some of it that's ramped back up, right? Some people, you hit on a few things there that I think are important. One, the reason why we're doing this specific episode is because, to Rebecca's point, people are coming off of being busy, right? Yep. And so they're doing okay, or their business completely shut down during COVID and they've kind of given up, which I think is the case. The end of the year is always a weird time because there's so many people who don't renew their license, for the first of the year. We always see that. I wonder if that number is going to increase. But I don't think it's mindset. I think agents still want to work hard. They want to go out and take listings. It has just been so hard to get your bearings for the past 6 months that if you convinced yourself in the first 90 days that COVID was going to shut down your business, you probably have not been able to recover from that in the past 90 days.
And I think that has a lot to do with the maybe a leadership of who you follow, whether it's your brokerage, whether it's a real estate coach, whether it's some type of real estate mentor in the industry, right? And I mean, look, we saw people saying they weren't taking listings during that time, and I know definitely
like voluntarily.
Yes,
it's fucking lame.
Yes, and look, I know people that were taking listings in states that were completely shut down and finding ways to sell them.
Our Vermont team did great, and that was one of the most shut down states I saw for a little bit.
I mean, I would tell you this. I don't know him personally or anything, but even people in Manhattan that I look up to, like Ryan Serhant, his shit didn't stop at all. So if you can take listings in a place that's completely locked down, good on you. And that's just your will to just keep moving forward. That's crazy. That's awesome.
Yeah. So I think that has a lot to do with it during that. Like, everyone was definitely a little bit afraid of what was going on.
Sure.
I mean, look, I went down a dark hole. I was going into the, I was becoming a prepper.
He was until they said, "Hey, everybody stay home," and then Nick was like,
"Yeah." Then Nick was like, "Don't take my freedom."
That's right, right. And then what happened? What happened to our business? Our business shot up through the roof.
They did that. There were times Brian and I sat in this very room right here, and because to that point, and I want to say this because again, I feel like we have to choose our words carefully in this politically climate, especially the COVID stuff. Nobody was going back to work unsafely, right?
No.
So if you hear this now or later, like it wasn't like we were all running back to the office like hawking lugs on each other and being like, right? The reality is,
even still, we're all still wearing masks, staying pretty far apart.
But I did watch how you guys were initially kind of, I don't know what the right word is. You just kept kind of moving along, and it seemed like you were gaining so much momentum while everybody else was at a dead stop. And you probably weren't moving any faster than normal, but if you're standing on the side of the highway, the cars are moving really fucking fast, right?
If everybody else slows down, you're all of a sudden flying.
Yeah. And I think that was what, I felt that. I even looked at Brian a couple of times, and I had to get, to speak to mindset, I had to get in my own head. Because, again, I very much measure myself up against Elizabeth. She's the person that I'm always watching she's doing, right? And I kind of assume she might be doing the same thing. So the reality is we're both kind of like looking at each other's business, and I didn't see her slow down. And there was a part of me that started almost acting like a petulant child, be like, "This is unfair. I'm staying home doing what I'm supposed to be doing." Elizabeth's kicking my ass.
It was when one of our other sister companies, Mary, put up like 11 pendings in a month. He was like, "They don't understand what the pandemic is like here."
I know. So, but again, the reality is I was doing the thing that I tell my 6-year-old not to do. Like, don't use the words, "It's not fair." You know why? Because the real world does not give two shits about that phrase. Yeah. The second you find yourself saying it's not fair, you are absolutely 100% in territory that zero people care about.
So to take more listings during this time, right? And Rebecca talks about it on here. She's like, there are definitely more seller opportunities now.
Yes.
But here's the thing with that. We say that there are, but when you go look at the inventory levels across all states, they're all way down, right? Here in DFW, we're sitting right around 2 to 2.1 months of inventory. That includes new construction, at least that's measured on the MLS.
Yeah, but dude, what kind of listings were you taking in 2015 when we had 6 days of inventory? You were still taking a lot of listings.
We've never been in inventory ever. Even in 2015, go look. I guarantee.
But how close were we? We were pretty close.
We sat at about 2.5 months.
So what did you just say?
We're at 2 to 2.1.
Okay, so it's,
but
we're going to argue over 10 days?
Well, but if you look at it, we were also shipping right under 2 months of inventory, which gets a little bit where we're sitting at 50% drop in inventory levels. What that does is certain types of agents.
But
right?
Does inventory correlate to opportunity? Wasn't 2015 one of you guys' best listing years ever? As far as
I'd have to go back and look.
it's probably pretty close.
It was one of our best volume years for sure.
Are we mistaking the word opportunity for seller intent as opposed to agent approach?
That's what I'm
Because
thinking,
that's-
right? Is
could
like
be.
just because inventory is low, is that an indication of people not wanting to sell or
my
agents not trying or not having those conversations?
That's and look, and I'll go all the way out on the plank and step right off it. I think that's what it is because to Rebecca's point, my seller opportunity is through the roof right now. I'm dealing with more sellers and more sellers in my pipeline that, candidly, I've probably had in my career. And I think that's a direct reflection of other agents just giving up, dude.
So it's that. Here's the thing. When we look at the opportunity, we can say that we have a full pipeline, but we also have to solve their problem, right?
Sure.
The number one thing is solving their problem. And if we had this pipeline in 2016, 2017, when inventory levels were going back up from 15 to 16 to 17, they started to rise back up.
Yep.
Then you would be fine, right? You'd be like, oh, we don't need to do a bridge loan. Do you even want to do a bridge loan because it's a little bit more expensive? Do you even know what a bridge loan is?
Right.
Do you have that product in your tool belt to offer your clients right now
Yep.
to help them find something, or do you know how to help your clients win on a contingency basis?
Yep.
Even though their home's not on the market yet, but you'll know that this is in pristine condition and will
Sure.
sell because
Such a
they're gonna price.
nuanced conversation, though,
Yep.
man. And again, I think it's why sitting around this table, it's easy for us to have that. But man, I will tell you, the first 4 years of my career, I wouldn't have been able to confidently. And again, maybe not the whole first 4 years. I just was a little bit of a chicken shit about attacking listings for a while too. But I don't think I would have been able to have those types of conversations where now I can go in and reassure a seller, I know you need to buy another house. Here's how we're going to do it as we run both
All right.
of these deals along
so,
next to each other.
Let me question that a little bit. 4 years ago to today, the only difference is you've just been in it longer and you were actually working listings.
My hot air balloon's higher in the air now.
Yes.
Yeah.
So there's no reason why that couldn't have been 4 years ago. Here's what I'm finding a lack of is we don't continue to study to better ourselves in this industry.
Yes.
We just get our real estate license, we pass it, we go to our brokerage's training thinking that there's the best training out there.
Yep.
And look, it's all the same shit. Right. And when you really dive down, we're not bettering ourselves at understanding people, understanding this whole process as a whole, right? And then being able to break it down to help show people the value of solving their problem, which is I don't want to sell my house if I can't go find one
Yep.
that is of equal or better than what I'm thinking it should be.
It's so huge, right? Because here's the thing. When you talk about low inventory levels and stuff, I don't see a reason that we shouldn't be taking listings because of low inventory levels. I see a reason we should be taking more listings. We have low inventory levels, right? If I have an asset that a lot of people want and not a lot of people are willing to sell, shouldn't I be willing to sell it, right? But then you have to figure out the conversation around that, right? What is the conversation around the pros and the positives of selling right now? Low inventory, high demand, right? Low interest rates, so on and so forth. Then you just navigate the objections, right? I don't want to sell right now because I'm scared of buying because it's low inventory. I don't want to have to compete, right? Bridge loan. It's binary. You figure out the solutions before you even have to deal with the problems, and then you just have to go and have the conversations. And I think it's a multifaceted approach or a multifaceted problem for people that aren't putting in the effort right now is maybe they don't have the education like you're talking about to continue to grow and learn and become better agents so they can handle a lot of those objections. And then two, I think we're kind of at a point where one, some of us are just mailing it in here at this point, and two, we're kind of taking it as a mindset thing as, oh, nobody else is really taking a lot of listings, that's why I shouldn't either. And that doesn't happen consciously, but subconsciously, I think that's one of the things that's affecting a lot of our activities.
For sure.
A little bit of the excuse, and I think to your point about like the studying up, that is the right route to go. If you're an agent, I never want you to listen to the things that I did in my career on the show and be like, I'm going to replicate that shit. Because the reality is my first 50 transactions, that was my training ground. That was what got me to a point where I understood how to do deals, understood how multiple offers and leasebacks and all those things could all work together in this place where you could accomplish the goal for your client.
Yep.
Putting some effort into learning those things up front would have accelerated my growth for sure.
Yeah. And guess what? It's all on YouTube.
Sure.
It's on YouTube.
YouTube University, my friend.
Yep. YouTube. The only real estate group worth being a part of. You can ask questions in there, right? There's other great real estate groups on Facebook to be a part of.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the thing is like, mine is self-taught. This is not something that again, when I learned to do expireds, in 2009 I was coached by Kinder Reese,
Yeah.
right? And Michael Reese is one of the best expired workers in the game at that time.
Yeah.
Right. But before I could afford that coaching, I Googled all of it and I YouTubed it.
Yeah.
And there were people on there doing it.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, it's just the school of hard noogies, bro. Like, this is where I think people maybe need to have a mindset shift. Is if you've sort of built your career on the last 4 or 5 years, but you want to make a career out of it, it's not always going to be that easy. You got to actually become really good at what you do, and hopefully you have over time. But if you're not equipped to handle objections or conversations based on current market conditions and what the pros and cons are, that's kind of an education thing. You really get skilled up in that, because I will tell you, you're only going to get so many at bats. Your conversion rates probably need to be a little bit higher right now.
Right. No, 100%. But look, this is all about at bats, right? So, like, if we were to recap this entire episode, number one is getting in the mindset of taking more listings right out of the gate, right? Out of the gate, what are you going to do fourth quarter to take more listings? Because that's going to help you, push you forward into Q1 of 2021. Because guess what? Next objection that's coming up.
It's the end of it's Christmas and it's Thanksgiving and it's
you're missing one.
Oh, okay. We're missing a different one.
You're missing one.
Halloween.
Oh, yes. Halloween's canceled, by the way.
It is.
Yeah. No, you've got the election.
That is, and here's the thing. I want to shift some agents' mindset around. You do. You have 3 reasonable objections going on in the United States real estate market: elections, COVID, and holidays. Right? Shift your thinking, and if you're an agent who's done this for a couple of years, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Shift your thinking to the end of the year and the conversations you have to start having every October.
Sure.
Because the excuse or the reason that I don't want to list during the holidays, that is a totally valid reason for the seller who does not have to sell. Well, an ass whipping to have your house on the market during that time, right? And while you can take the hardcore approach, and I do think right now is probably going to be one of the better times to sell in the next 12 months, the reality is there are going to be some sellers who are not going to do it during the holidays. And if you take that approach when you hear the objection of COVID, when you hear the objection of the election, and just try and, to Nick's point, try and find a way to solve their problem. And if you can't solve their problem now, figure out how you can solve it for them in the future. That's ultimately what none of these listings are going to happen overnight unless you're just an expired monster, right?
A little thing that we just... So I've instituted a financial freedom call every Friday within our EXP group, right? And within that, I started talking about, and where I'm going with this is, and I talked about it in our team meeting yesterday, is you've got to get better at the personal development side. We always talk mindset on the show, which is listen to the first 100 shows. Yeah. Right? So the next 20, it's all going to somehow come back to mindsets.
Always.
Right? But we've got to study up and become better at asking questions.
Right.
And you talk about, struggling, as a newer agent, struggling to take more listings on because we're a little bit of afraid of that beast, that monster. It's and on the buyer side, I was talking to a new agent the other day and he's like, oh, that's fun to work by.
Yeah.
Right? Yes. It can be until you screw up on something and then they're over here, chewing your ass out because you forgot something.
All the problems,
Yes, they're coming to you for that, right? But learning how to ask more questions. What is it about the election that you're concerned about with this real estate market? Why are you holding off?
I think that's big. Having some fierce conversations is big. It's something that a lot of agents shy away from.
Yeah.
Because they made the call and they got the answer and they got told no. And I did my work, Brian. I called that person. They were not interested after I asked them one time.
And the funny thing is, like, I jumped on the phones the other day. I had an appointment canceled, and I jumped on the phones the other day. And Elizabeth called me out on one because they gave me something, and I was like, oh, okay. And she's like, wait, that's it?
Oh.
Right?
No pushback?
Yeah. Look, you can get rusty on it.
Hell yeah.
You can. 100%, bro.
Yeah.
100%.
So you can definitely get a little bit rusty on it. And so, and then, of course, I recorded it. Actually, I should send it to you guys because it was a great call.
Yep.
And then it comes back, right? I started asking questions. So on my team call yesterday, I talked about, if you're not understanding questions, there's really 4 types of questions that people do. Introductory style questions like, how are you? How are you doing? Et cetera. Yeah. Mirroring style questions, which is, I'm fine. How are you?
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
Full switch questions. These are ones that change the topic entirely. Like, have you ever met someone and you ask them a question and they ask something back and they just completely, it's not even in the ballpark of what we were talking about.
It's just like super random.
Did you watch the Stars game?
Yeah.
Well, you know about the drug cartel? Like, No, it's not even the same. No, what?
They
And then
won-
you're sitting there like, what just
Well, the
happened?
Stars won.
Yeah. Just let you know. They're going to the Stanley Cup. So, and then the fourth one is follow-up questions, right?
Okay.
These are ones that solicit more information. We should all know that.
Open-ended, non-yes or no.
Right, I have that here.
Continuing follow-up
Yep,
questions.
right? And so out of these 4 types of questions, follow-up are the most powerful. It signifies and signals into your conversational partner that you are listening, you care, and you want to know more.
Sure.
Right? So how do we get better at asking those questions? It's about studying and implementing it.
Yep.
And it's number 1, it talks about don't ask yes or no questions.
Don't ever, unless it's completely unavoidable, don't
Yeah.
ask a yes or no question.
Well, unless you're trying to lead to a yes. Right?
Yeah.
There are certain
if you're going to try and close with a yes, obviously, then there's a yes or no
Right.
question at the end. But
So yes and no questions typically, or lead to who, what, when, where, why, or how.
Yep.
Are more open-ended.
right.
Questions with would, should, is, are, or do you think all lead to more yes and no. So here's the thing: it's all about studying, and implementing, and then you're learning that asking more questions on the phone with these sellers.
So where are we finding these things then? And I want to give you kind of just some of my thoughts and sources and things like that. That's where I want to kind of give some actionable advice here. Who should we be going after, so on and so forth. I'll tell you this. Here's the deal. If you think that you're having trouble having some conversations with people, just imagine all the people who actually really were on the market and really were affected by the pandemic a few months ago and their houses didn't sell because of it. Their agents probably didn't have really any good answers for them. So expireds are huge right now. Expireds are murdering for us. FSBOs are murdering for us too. I know that's old hat. I know it's the same couple of sources we talk about all the time.
Getting the FSBOs though, are you calling them?
Yeah.
Because Matt sucks at them just like I do.
I'm not.
Here's the deal. It's funny that you say that because Matt might not be Mr. FSBO guy, but I also think that's by choice because I think he has enough really solid lead sources. We have business that just joined us who have no predisposition about this is how it should go. This is what I should be afraid of. This is like my hangups that are just murdering it with FSBOs. I went on 2 listing appointments last week with a brand new agent that's been licensed, literally officially licensed for a week. They went on 2 FSBO, literally were legit listing appointments before we even stepped in the door. That we've already taken one of them, and hopefully we'll be taking the second sometime later this week. They're just making the calls, doing the activities. The people that are FSBO right now, I don't think that they're getting the play that they were even a year ago. I think the pandemic has done something weird with FSBOs, and I don't know what that is. But I think it's maybe something about it not having professional intervention or something.
It might. I mean,
You know what I mean? Like there's something about it that like an agent, it seems less clean. Physically clean, but like the transaction process, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I haven't studied it enough or to completely understand it, but in 2015, I can tell you where we were losing out the true at-bats, or when we had them, they were going to go for sell by owner, and they were getting it, right? Because the agents were marketing it.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. The agents were also marketing in that direction, like, hey, you go for sell by owner, I'll bring your buyer anyway. Just pay me my whatever percent, right? And Rebecca commented earlier, there are also, she says there are also more people thinking that they can do a for sale by owner to save them money since the market is so hot, right? Look, a lot of that has to do with our marketing. What are we doing when we call sellers or homeowners? Hey, have you heard how amazing this market is? Your house will sell in days for almost whatever price that you want to throw out there. So
let me tell you about
But you should hire me.
But let me tell you about the 4 types of buyers.
Tell me.
I'll handle any objection that you have. Oh, I thought you knew that script.
No.
You actually want me to?
Tell me about the
I'm
4
not. It's
types
going
of
to take a
buyers.
while. I'm just saying. The 4 types of buyers. There's the pre-approved, ready to go, right? And they have
Those are the ones that I want if I'm a for sale buyer.
Those are the ones that you want, right? And they already have motivation. Who do you think they're going to go to? People that are already listed online, or a FSBO who's not going to return their call, that they have to schedule directly with the seller to get showings. They're on a time schedule. Buyers are buying houses every day right now. They don't have time to wait. And there's like 3 others, and it goes down the list. Tire kickers, basically, at the bottom.
I like
but
it.
there's an objection handler for everything, is what I'm trying to say.
No, there is. And look, it works.
I think one of the things about me not going after FSBOs is it's just kind of my personality and.
Sure.
Because they're actually kind of the perfect source of business for me. They're relationship oriented. They take a bit of follow up time to probably get them to list, most of them, right? Very few of them are going to be like day one, be like, oh, you changed my mind. Thank you so much for coming by today, right? Like, and maybe they do, right? But that's probably not going to be my specific approach. And it's really just a matter of having a follow up system for them in place that allows me to just stay in contact with them, talk to 20 a month,
100%.
Probably only meet with 15, end up taking 2 listings a month, right? Like it almost seems like free business, but then I think about the processes and stuff, and I'm like,
look, it's a lot. It's look, everything on this, whether you're working for subbonders, expireds, farming, even your sphere, right? It's a lot of work at the end of the day.
Yep.
And look, there are some agents that they get a handful of their sphere and they're just natural connectors and they make it look super, super easy. Look, if that's one of you, then I envy your business in that manner.
Sure.
That's not how my business works. That's not how the majority of the business works. That's why over 87% of real estate agents fail in their first 12 months.
Yep.
And that continues on really through year 5.
It's been a really consistent statistic.
Yeah, I don't think they ever update it.
I think it's just, I think it's probably the way it is.
Here's the thing, I always check. I check, NAR does update the average transactions, and it always falls 8 and like 11. Right, it will change. Like
really,
I think last year was like 10 or 11.
That's high
for a number of transactions for an agent.
Yeah, I thought it'd be like 6 or 7.
You probably say it's like 6 or 7 on listing appointments.
I do. I say a bunch of stuff though.
All right, guys. Look, hopefully this was helpful. This was more of a roundtable style listing talk. And if you're wanting to truly learn how to take more listings like we do, this is actually the style of talk that we do off camera too.
Yeah.
Right? So if you're wanting to learn how we take more listings every single month, go over to touracademy.com/take10, TEN, sign up for the webinar, and then, of course, sign up for Tour Academy, because if you're listening to this live right now, next week is our next Tour Academy Mastermind call, which was what day is that?
Monday,
but what?
Monday,
September
the 21st. 20th or 21st.
One of those.
Don't quote me on that.
So get on there, sign up for the webinar, sign up for Tour Academy, jump on the mastermind call, go consume that content, start implementing your business, and look, have a great fourth quarter.
Hell yeah.
If you don't have a great fourth quarter, then don't sign up.
Yeah.
Go back to whatever you're doing before real estate.
Yeah. It's as simple as that. All right, guys. Thanks for hanging with us. We appreciate it. We'll see you next week. Matt, as always.
Brian,
wait.
take
Do we
care.
have it next week, Brian?
Wait, what do you mean do we have it next week?
You and I are in a golf tournament.
No, that shit's at like 7 in the morning.
Dude, that lasts all day.
There's no way.
Actually,
it's the Matt Kelderman Show next week.
Join us live.
There we go.
Next week, because it's going to be an interesting show right
Bro,
after the golf tournament.
Could you imagine a show where I rambled for 45 minutes with zero help? We would have 2 viewers.
It's like an 8 a.m. shotgun start. If we're not done by 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm leaving. That would be a 7-hour round of golf and lunch.
We'll see.
All right, we'll see.
We'll see how it goes. So we may be here live next week.
We may hear.
You may see Brian tanked.
You never know. Actually, that's actually pretty.
So
until
join us.
then,
episode 81 next week.
White
Matthew,
Claws.
as always.
Brian, take us out.
No.
Eventually.
Wrong one. I'm so sorry.
Oh, here we go. Hang on. So, thanks for watching the show today. Make sure if you're watching this on Facebook, you head over to our group, the only real estate group we're being a part of, so you can watch the extended conversation. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. And if you listen on the Apple Podcast, leave us a review. We'd really like it. So just do it. Do it. Do that over there. Go to this one, then go to that one. Thanks.